Like,
Well, what the market's saying is it's gonna grow right into that value.
right, it's just going to grow
They're just gonna
exponentially
keep
forever,
growing. Yes.
which we know is not possible. Not it's some rate of growth. It's
Right.
just not sustainable. So interesting.
But when you get into these frenzy type situations, all you have to do is say like words like, "Well, it's AI," and that it just excuses it, right? You can pay anything because it's AI.
It's different this
Or
time. It's AI.
Yeah. Oh, it's tech. Well, then it can keep.
So eventually other companies are going to try to make the same quality chips and eat away at some of that market cap.
I think they will. I just think it might take a little time. But then how much of that time is already priced into a $3 trillion market cap? And so it's not just the market cap, but I've got another chart that's interesting too. It's a ratio that we use, something called PS ratio, or easier to understand as price to sales. And so what that means in English is you take the value of the company and you divide it by its gross revenue. Just take the highest number. So this
Not
is
their earnings, revenue.
So this is before they pay taxes. This is before they pay rent. This is before they pay employees.
Cost
This is
of
before they
goods,
pay medical.
everything,
This is
yeah.
before they pay for the cost of goods. This is the biggest number at the top of the list. So you take that number and you divide that into the value of the company, and you get a number. And so the second most expensive company out there has a PS ratio of 22. You can see there's a lot of companies trading in the teens, and most of them are either software-based, pharmaceutical-based, things like that. Microsoft, the biggest company in the country, has a price-to-sales ratio of 13. NVIDIA right now is almost 40.
And you're not seeing those same mega cap names. I mean, you look at the names that are even, they're not even comparable. They're not even that close. But Fair Isaac Corp Software and Intuitive Surgical, those are not mega cap companies,
Right.
Which is crazy. And so the one thing too is that, without getting too dumbed down, but like, I mean, at the end of the day, when you're buying equities, right, stocks, so you go back to like just investing 101, you're buying future stream of cash flows.
Mm-hmm.
So at what price does that future stream of cash flows not make sense? And in like Warren Buffett always says, I know Chris uses this all the time, in the short term, the market is a voting machine, but in the long term, it's a weighing machine. So at some point, you may be paying too much for, you're never going to get those cash flows back. We don't know the answer, because that's the thing about stocks, the thing about equities, right? There's no permanence. But that is a huge, huge number.
Well, and with that ratio, and not that they can't. I mean, companies have done it, not a lot, but I mean, they have to hit like 5 more home runs in a row.
Yeah.
I mean, it's priced in. So when we get clients ask, "Hey, should I start buying NVIDIA now?" I mean, we're not saying it's going down, but it looks very fully valued at this point, unless.
Well, and like you said,
I
was going to say, like you said earlier, I mean, now it's almost a $3 trillion company. I mean, how hard is it to get from 3 to 6? It's pretty damn hard.
Right. So the performance that some have been lucky enough to obtain up to this point, it's unlikely. It would be very difficult for NVIDIA to double again this year. Which
Right.
People say, well, it already went from 200 to 1,000. Why can't it go from 1,000 to 10,000? And it just doesn't work that way.
We should do something on stock splits at some point too,
Yeah.
because that's
Interesting.
that seems to be one of those
Yeah, it's going to
hot
split.
button
Does that
things
mean I have more money?
No.
Well, let's be clear too. It's not a meme stock. This isn't AMC
they're
or
legit.
GameStop. This isn't somebody artificially pumping the price of it up and then it's gonna fall. So completely different than what's been what's happened in the past or in the news. NVIDIA is a great company. It's a legit company, but at some point everything has a value. You go back to anything you own. Everything has a value. Is a car worth $50,000, $100,000, $1 million, $10 million? Like,
Well, what the market's saying is it's gonna grow right into that value.
right, it's just going to
They're
grow
just gonna
exponentially
keep
forever,
growing. Yes.
which we know is not possible. Not at some rate of growth. It's
Right.
just not sustainable. So interesting.
But when you get into these frenzy type situations, all you have to do is say like words like, "Well, it's AI," and that it just excuses it, right? You can pay anything because it's AI.
It's different this
Or
time. It's AI.
Yeah. Oh, it's tech. Well, then it can keep. And I always think back to like names like Cisco Systems, which was this is a long time ago, but it was the largest company in the S&P 500, like by a long shot. And then in about 6 months, it wasn't. And it's still a very viable, very, very good company. But I'd have to look back and see if they've even gotten back to where they were valued 24 years ago. I think they might be close now, but
Yeah.
it took a long time for it to, finally go. But all that stopped was this massive growth. It just went from, oh, well, we're not growing at 35% anymore. Now we're only growing at 27%. Oh, we must be trash. Boom, the stock goes way down.
It does.
So
It does seem a little bit like early 2000s. Not that there's going to be a tech bubble and a crash, but
Yeah.
just like at some point you just can't say it's AI and just keep pumping it up. But yeah, they're going to